going to do the third and final video for the That's What You Got Me gift bag. So what I have cut out is the exterior, which on the medium and large you would want to fuse fusible fleece to. I am using Theratex fabric from Fabric Therapy, and I'm not going to use any interfacing on this. And if I was using quilting cotton, I would use fusible fleece on the exterior, or maybe Decovil Light or Pixie Fuse Heavy I think would be a good alternative. There are so many interfacings now, so I think something a little heavier that will help the bag hold its shape. For my lining, I'm going to be using a waterproof canvas. The lining you would typically use a woven interfacing on. Since I'm using waterproof canvas, I'm not using any interfacing on this either. And that should also help my bag to hold its shape because the waterproof canvas is a very sturdy fabric. I cut out two top stabilizer pieces, and I already went ahead and I fused those to the exterior 1/2 inch down from the top raw edge. And then I have one bottom stabilizer piece, and I have the two ribbons cut for my handles. So let's go ahead and get started sewing this one. All right, to get started, we're going to line the two, or match the two exteriors right sides together. We want to match up the bottom edge, and then we're going to clip or pin that together. I apologize for all the background noise. We're going to go ahead and sew this using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Hey, my sewing machine's not. Okay, I'm going to press this seam open, and then once it's pressed open, I'm going to fuse the bottom panel, or the bottom stabilizer, centered over that seam after I press it open. All right, so the seam is pressed open and the bottom stabilizer is fused in place. Now we're going to fold this wrong sides together. And we're going to match both of the sides and clip them together. All right, now we're going to go ahead and sew this together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance along both sides, or yeah, along each side. The snips that I'm using are ergonomic prism snips from Fabric Therapy. All right, now we're going to trim these seam allowances down to about 1/8 of an inch. All right, now we're going to box the corners. So to box the corners on this, we're going to bring the sides, open the sides up. You're going to bring the side seam down and match it up with the center of the bottom seam. So it'll be just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and clip together at the seam first and then along the rest of the sides. And we'll repeat this for the other corner. All right, and then we're going to sew this together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we'll go ahead and do the other side. And now we're going to, I would like to point out, when you sew along the seam, you're sewing directly next to this bottom stabilizer, not through it. And I also wanted to kind of discuss, this is seam guide tape that I get from Sewful Therapy. It's called the Sew Friction Seam something. I don't know. Sew Friction is the name of it, but no, Sew Fraction. I get this from Fabric Therapy. Nope, I get this from Sewful Therapy. And it has on it 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch. So you get 1/8 inch increments in both directions. And it's, I think, printed on rice paper. And it's sticky, but like doesn't leave residue behind when you remove it, because I have replaced it. So it's pretty durable. I've been using this one for a while. But you get it on a whole roll, so you can replace them as needed. All right, so I just go ahead and cut the seam allowance off. And now we're going to set this aside and assemble the lining. All right, so for the lining, we are going to do the same thing. There's no bottom stabilizer attached here, so we're going to match these up right sides together and clip all the way along the sides and bottom. And then when we sew, we're going to leave a turning hole at least 3 inches wide in the bottom. You can leave it a little bit larger than that on the large and medium bags. On the small bag, 3 inches is probably the maximum. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and sew this together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. I'm sorry, we're going to sew this together using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to start at the top with 1/2 inch. And then as I go toward the bottom, I will increase my seam allowance to 5/8 of an inch. And this helps the lining to fit down inside of the exterior without being saggy. This helps the lining to fit down inside of the exterior nicely. So here I'm going to only sew a couple inches in using a 5/8 inch seam allowance all the way across. Alright, and then here I'm going to start this side because I'm starting from the bottom. I'm going to start at 5/8 of an inch and then work my way back down to 1/2 of an inch. Alright, now we're going to trim the seam allowances down to 1/8 of an inch, except for along the turning hole that we left in the bottom. So what I'll do there is trim along the side and then cut down to leave the seam allowance along the actual opening. All right, and then we're going to repeat the same process to box the bottom corners. And we're going to be using a 5/8 inch seam allowance here. If you watched my medium size bag tutorial, you'll know that I lost my hole punch, like my leather hole punch. I used it in the small one, the small video. I left it on my sewing machine. And that was a couple days ago. And then today I come in to film the large and medium size tutorials, and I moved the hole punch from my sewing machine to somewhere else in this same room, and I cannot find it anywhere. So we are just making do without the hole punch today when we get to the point of inserting the eyelets. So that's really fun. And I guess I'm just going to order a new one because I really can't find it anywhere. Okay, so I just used a 5/8 inch seam allowance there, and I'll do the same on the other corner. All right, now we're going to trim these seam allowances down. You know what? Hole punch. It was in my drawer. And I even looked there before. So I'm glad I found it. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the lining right side out. Which is inside out for a lining. Alright, and I'm going to take my exterior and I'm going to place the lining inside of it, right sides together. At this point, your exterior is significantly taller than your lining, and that is correct, and that's how it should be. So, go ahead and match up the side seams first. And I'm just going to put a couple clips right here. And then I'll match the side seam on the other side. And then I will attach clips all the way around to hold these together. All right, and now we're going to sew the lining and the exterior together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around the top raw edges. go ahead and trim these threads. We're going to now trim this seam allowance down to about 1/8 of an inch. So much easier to cut this way, so I don't know why. It's easier to cut with the threads on the left side of my scissors so I can actually see it, the seam. All right, now we're going to turn the whole bag right side out through the opening in the bottom seam allowance, and the bottom seam, the bottom of the lining. Yeah, whatever. All right, so now it's all right side out. We want to go ahead and push the lining down inside of the exterior. And in that process, the top edge of the exterior will also fold down inside of the lining, right along where that top stabilizer piece is fused. So it should relatively naturally turn that way and leave a nice crisp edge right along the top. So I'm going to go ahead and press that. All right, so I've pressed all the way around the top seam, and now we're going to top stitch this. On my sewing machine, because it's a flatbed, I top stitch everything inside out. So I'm just going to turn the whole bag inside out. All right, we're going to top stitch at 1 3/4 of an inch, and 1/8 of an inch. So in order for me to do the 1 3/4 inch top stitch, I'm going to have to measure and place tape on the bed of my sewing machine because I don't have a 1 3/8 inch line for a seam allowance. So I'm just going to kind of place this ruler here and line it up. Let's see, right there will give me a 1 inch. I'm going to place it under my presser foot to hold it down, kind of. Oh, it might be easier if I do it like this, so that my tape will go right at the end of the ruler. That's a good idea. Okay, so if you're like me and you need to mark out where 1 3/4 of an inch is, this is how I would recommend to do it. And then just take a piece of tape and place it at that point. I'm gonna try to get it straight. These trains are really on my nerves today. All right, so I'm going to start at the side seam. And I'm using the 1 3/4 inch seam allowance. I believe some of my testers use Pellon 809, which I think is Decor Bond, and I think that would work well for interfacing on the exterior and to give your bag structure. How cute would it be to make some like little leather gift bags? I might do that. And also one of my testers, Michelle Graham, she used a snap on her gift bag, the lining, so that way if you're not using tissue paper, it's not hanging open at all. You can just snap it closed right in the center. And I thought that was a great idea. All right, so now we're going to do a 1/8 inch seam allowance top stitching. Once you've done that second line of top stitching, now you can turn the bag right side out. And we're going to pull the lining out of the bottom to close the turning hole. This Theratex is pretty awesome fabric. It's unlike anything I've ever used, so I don't even know how to describe it to you, but I would definitely check it out because it's pretty cool stuff, and she has awesome prints, so. All right, so I'm just pushing the lining, I'm pushing the seam allowance inside along the opening, and I am just clipping that together. And then I'm just going to edge stitch this closed. So you can use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance or smaller if you can get it smaller and successfully catch both sides under or in the seam. Now we're going to push the lining back inside the exterior. All right. We're going to do the same process where we pinch the lining sides together at the edge of the Decoville at each of the 4 top corners. And then using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to sew from the top down to the lower line of top stitching. And this just helps the bag to hold that gift bag shape. All right, we're going to do that on each of the 4 corners. If you don't have Decoville Heavy, you could use Peltex for this portion. That would be my other recommendation. Or I believe that Wawak, I can't remember again how to say it. Wawak. I think it's Wawak. They have a product called Stiffy. That's the same kind of thing. So anything like that. It has to be like a stiff stabilizer that you can sew through. Because you do sew through it. On this portion and on that bottom top stitch. And the final corner. All right, and now I'm going to press this so that I'm folding, or I'm going to press each of the 4 corners so that it has that like bag shape to it. All right, so this is all pressed, and now you have that classic gift bag look. So we're going to go ahead and insert the ribbon for the handles. So here we are going to, on the large size bag, we are going to take a roller. This ruler is from moremeknow.com, and my pen is also from moremeknow.com. We're going to measure 2 inches in from the left and 1/2 inch down from the top. And this is actually easier to do if you lay it down. 2 inches and 1/2 inch. And I'm just using my silver marking pen. Not that one, I forgot that one doesn't work. You know what? I think those are refillable. Don't throw it away. One-half inch from the top and 2 inches in from the side. I'm just going to make 4 marks like that. All right, now at that mark, I am going to use my leather hole punch that I found, and I'm using this on the biggest hole setting, and I do think this Theratex, yes, is a little bit hard to cut, but it's not impossible. So, and I think I also might just need a new hole punch because I think it's not that sharp anymore. I don't know how many years you get out of these, but I don't know if you can sharpen them, and I never have. So, kind of doesn't cut always through all the layers on all the sides. Sorry. I can get a better, more power, I guess, to punch the holes if I put this in my lap. All right. So do you want to know what I just did? When I punched this hole, I had the side piece underneath of it, and I kind of punched a hole in that. So don't do that. Be careful. So now I'm just going to insert my ribbons, which I already cut to 18 inches long. Oh, you know what? That was silly. I'm going to insert my eyelets. And these are 1/4 inch eyelets. You could use bigger ones than this if you have those. Yep. All right, and then you can use pliers, or I have a press that I use for rivets and eyelets. now we're going to insert the ribbons. So I just kind of, these are 3/8 inch, 3/8 of an inch wide ribbons, and I just kind of fold it in half to slide it in through the hole. And then once both of the raw edges are inside, I bring them together, and I'm just going to tie that in a knot. And you can make your handles a little bit longer or shorter or whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to trim this. And then on the end of your knot, you'll want to either use some type of glue, fray check, or heat seal that with a lighter carefully. And then also, if you wanted to, you could slide ribbon through the back and out the front and then tie it in a bow, and it would cinch your bag closed like this. So that would be a great way to package that to give as a gift, but then you won't have a handle to carry it. But all right, and then I like to pull them so the knots are like this, up against one of the eyelets, and there you go. So this is the completed large size That's What You Got Me gift bag. Let me show you the medium and small size in comparison with this. All right, so small, medium, and large all together. So thanks for watching. I hope you will like my video, give me a follow here on YouTube, and then head over to my Facebook group because group members get this bag for free. So do that, or if you don't want to join my group, then you can buy it on my website, which is linked in the description. Thanks for watching.